HTHI schools are very diverse and different. One of the most diverse ways we have here is how we teach math. So, how do we do it? A question we have been asked many times. Rarely have we been able to get a good answer in a short amount of time. But now, you can watch this short video and hopefully be satisfied. So, how do we do math here at HTHI schools? Let's find out.
So we're trying to do things a little bit differently than that. I think that a lot of the math that we teach in school is not very useful to the world, but we just teach it because we teach it. And so I want to question what math we teach, and then I want to question how we teach the math. And I think that in terms of how we teach the math, first of all, it's not like we've got it figured out by any stretch. We're really working on it. But we also think that computer software may be helpful. We're kind of experimenting with that, as you're seeing, with personalizing so that every student's getting kind of the math where they are. But it's not like, oh, just put a computer out and it's all solved. It's actually a fairly sophisticated challenge that we're trying to take on. And then I think that we're also trying to get this balance between what is sometimes referred to as procedural fluency, which is like manipulating, okay, x squared plus 3x equals 7, move things around, factor. There's sort of like a just doing the math thing, which is like most of math curriculum in traditional schools. And so we're trying to do some of that, the right amount of that, but we're also trying to use math as it's really seen in the real world and apply it to things. So that's kind of the trick for us, is we don't want to merely be a math test prep center, which is, I've taught in schools where that's really more what it's like. And we're trying to, it's sort of like, it's easier to describe what we're not doing than what we are doing, but a lot of us have an idea of what math is because we learned it that way ourselves. And in fact, it didn't really work that well. And yet, ironically, we all kind of wish that everyone was doing it the same way that we know doesn't work that well. So that's part of what's interesting about it.
So we're diverse, but that doesn't mean our students aren't ready for traditional college. HTHI International's 12th grade calculus teacher tells his approach to math.
So as a senior teacher and also teaching calculus, it's pretty rigorous. My class is probably more like a traditional class than maybe most classes. I still do a lot of HTHI things, you would say. My class is, I try to make it very collaborative, very kind of I think my students would say there's a sense of kind of learning with me. So we look at problems and we tackle them together. So it's a very much kind of a discovery learning experience. I'd say the projects a lot of the times are just really difficult problems that we sort of work together on rather than necessarily something we produce. Because you gotta think, mathematicians, even in the real world, don't really make stuff. That's really the job of an engineer or a physicist. Our job is to come up with the equations to understand things, and then we hand it off to somebody who uses the materials to actually build things. So my class looks a lot more traditional. I do purposely actually do lectures because I'm trying to train kids to go to college. Even though you can see my setup right now, a lot of times there's sort of a collaborative group work where I give them problems and they work together and share ideas, and I try to get them to teach each other. So there's a lot going on that I think is very HTHI-ish, but I would say my class, certainly of all the math classes at the school, is probably the most traditional. And I do use textbooks and I do lecture. Again, but this is all purposely because I know that the majority of my students are going to go to colleges where that's going to be the main method of instruction, and they need to be ready for that.
So now we know a little bit about how we teach math, but what do the students think about it? Do you like doing math here?
Yeah, I think it's completely different sort of like way they teach, like different mindset, and so I think it's cool. And the teacher actually teaches you here.
Well, in math class today, we're using a thing called accelerated math, and you take home worksheets and you bubble in your answers and you scan them and then you see which one's right. And if you get them wrong, then you go back and make sure you learn it before you move on. And when you've mastered something, and when it sees that you've mastered something, it brings you forward. So like if you're advanced in the class, it makes it.
Do you like doing math here?
I do like doing math most of the time. I think it's math can sometimes be fun. The teachers here definitely make math fun, and when they incorporate it into projects, it makes it more interesting to learn.
Do you feel you would do better with math if you used textbooks?
No, textbooks suck. I'm terrible at textbooks. It's so much harder to use because everybody has to use them. There's always like a set like curriculum, but like here, like teachers like, oh, you're like at this level, so you need to do this. Oh, do this. Yeah.
What would you change about how you learn math here?
Nothing. I think it's pretty great. I think the math here is better than other math schools.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and learned a few more things about how we do math at high-tech high schools.